Well, what's up, you guys? Another episode of the Chaz Way podcast. Super excited, super grateful to be here with you guys again this week. Episode number 12. Last week was awesome. It was fun. Got to talk about some cool things. I talked about winning, and I think it's so important. Just a quick recap. If you didn't jump on and watch it, make sure you check it out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes. But I titled it "All I Do Is Win," and the reason was because I really want to challenge my friends to understand that, like, there's so many different outlooks you can have on things. If you look at little micro decisions that can be considered wins, it's so much more fun. Like, it's more fun to get up in the day and be like, oh my gosh, I woke up. Oh my gosh, I can breathe. Oh my gosh, I have food in the fridge or gas in the tank, And so, like, I just talked about, like, challenging everybody to just find those little wins through your day, because I think it keeps our attitude a little bit better. So hopefully that brought some value to you guys. If you haven't seen it or listened, please jump back and check it out. Feel free to leave a review. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, I will ask you to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment on here as well. And then, of course, obviously Spotify, iTunes reviews are great, and your comments are certainly appreciated. If you guys want to win some cash money, if you'll just take a screenshot of the podcast and post it on your social media and make sure that you tag me, that would be awesome. And then when I get notified, I will randomly pick somebody, and I will send out a little fun cash prize. I'm not bribing you, I'm just rewarding you. So again, today, episode number 12. I was trying to come up with a clever name. I really like to I like to title the episodes, but dude, like, no pressure, but the title today is Cowboy Kenny Bartram. So,
What?
Yeah, I know. It's gonna. I literally was writing out some notes. I was like, no, it's just gonna be. This is just it. We're gonna keep it real. So, as you guys, if you're watching on video, you'll see that I have my buddy here with a cowboy hat on, and this is a good friend of mine, Cowboy Kenny Bartram. And I'll get into it a little bit. I'll tell you about him, and then I'll let him kind of tell you about himself as well. But I'll say first that the reason I asked Kenny Bartram to be on the podcast is because I want to have people that not only can bring value, but that I admire and respect. Not just in my life and in my circle, but also in anything that I share with others. I want it to come with, that people that I don't want to say endorse, but that I believe in. And so just to tell you a little bit who we're talking to, this guy has been, had tons of success in the X Games. If you're into the motocross world, he's also has a tour called the Steel Rodeo Tour, which he'll tell you about, I'm sure. And me being like a longtime fan of the motocross world, I've always kind of just followed that genre, whatever. Yeah, genre. I don't think it's a genre, but anyways, I've really been into the motocross world forever. And so I've kind of followed this guy from probably fairly early in your at least public career. And then one thing I really liked is that just Kenny's always stood out as just a good dude. And so, over the last probably 8 or 9 years, we've gotten to know each other a little bit more. And it's been awesome. It's been awesome to watch you evolve and shift kind of in different directions. And it's been fun to just kind of do that together, because we both obviously are driven to do more than average, and so it's been cool. But you guys, he's done X Games. He has the Steel Rodeo Tour. He'll tell you about that's very, very cool thing he does. He's also a rally car champion. He's done some movie stuff. He's done some music video stuff. You guys can look him up and check it out. It's very cool, very fun stuff. And so without further ado, I just want to introduce you guys to my friend, Cowboy Kenny Bartram. And then Kenny, just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. So what's up?
Not much. A little bit about myself. I'm a dumb dirt biker.
Sweet.
That pretty much sums it up right there. No, just a kid from Oklahoma that I was actually, most of my family rode motorcycles. And so it was very easy for me to fall into the two-wheel thing. My aunt still runs a bicycle shop to this day. So bicycles and motorcycles have always been a big part of my life. But then, yeah, like you said, I went on to have I've been 26 years riding professionally now, between X Games, and I've raced just about everything you can race on two wheels. And I've had a very blessed career, and pumped to still be at it. I'm still actually riding freestyle shows. Like you said, my company is Steel Rodeo Tour. We put on freestyle exhibitions now. I don't do so many contests anymore. I'm 42 years old, so I'm definitely over the hill for this sport, but I still love to ride. I throw a leg over the bike and fire it up, and it puts a grin on my face. And so I go out and do what I love to do.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I want to say, and I actually do want to talk about the Steel Rodeo, not just the tour, but the business in a second. But I will, since you're talking about throwing your leg over the bike and then you just do what you do. It was funny because I got to see you, and we got to visit in Guthrie, Oklahoma recently. And it was so funny because there was like 3 guys on bikes, all obviously like dirt. It is when you're on a bike, when you're into dirt bikes, like you're just a big kid, no matter. Wouldn't you agree? Like it's when you get like to this day, I just turned 44. Like give me the chance to be on anything off road, and I am absolutely a kid. You know, I love it. But it was really funny because after every time after you jumped and you come off the lander, you would just, I mean, like balls out to the other side, like you were coming across the whoops and then you were jumping over that berm. And out of all 3 guys that were riding, it was like, oh, he's still having some fun. It wasn't just the jump; it was the way back to the kicker too. You know, so I could tell you still love riding. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You do anything long enough and it becomes a job, but at the same time, kind of like what you were saying in the opening of this podcast, you celebrate the little victories. If you focus on I got to hit the same ramp that I hit 5,000 times, it's going to become boring and it's going to become mundane. But you're like, oh, this is a new berm. This is only on this track. I'm going to get to hit this, 10 or 15 times in this show. And you celebrate those little victories and make life fun. You make what you can out of it.
For sure. I love that. I love it. It's so cool. So the Steel Rodeo Tour, talk about, like, for the people that aren't into motocross or don't even know maybe what freestyle is, maybe you could just give a quick, like a little bit of information about what freestyle is. And then if you could just talk about, like, where did the company come from? Where did you decide to create a brand outside? Because obviously the Cowboy Kenny brand has been very successful. When you created the company Steel Rodeo, I have a couple questions about it, but the first one is like, tell me how you created that, and then kind of what it is for the people that don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So freestyle motocross is basically jumping motorcycles and doing tricks in the air, like what you see X Games and stuff like that. Typically, we jump about 60 to 90 feet in length, about 40 feet high, and you hang off the back of the bike, the front of the bike, backflips, all that sort of stuff is freestyle. Now, there is some ground freestyle stuff, kind of like what you were talking about with me at that freestyle show, doing nose wheelies and things like that. But primarily, freestyle motocross is in the air. And that's been my background for a lot of years. Became a standalone sport in 1998. And I was at one of the very first contests. So been around since the beginning. And 2006 was actually my last competition that I did. I did a few exhibitions between 07 and 2010. I was racing rally cars and kind of just trying to figure out what I wanted to do after I retired. And there was a local rodeo in Perry, Oklahoma, about 20 minutes from my house. I hired another buddy of mine to put on this freestyle show. They wanted us to do intermission at it, basically. And man, I had such a blast riding that event. The crowd was into it. I really didn't have that many friends and family there. Even, for being 20 minutes from my house, nobody really knew about it. But the rodeo crowds are so genuine, and they've never seen freestyle motocross. Or a lot of them haven't, and especially back then, it was just so new. There was just such an energy and electricity in the crowd that I was like, man, this is what I need to do after, when I'm fully retired, whatever, this is what I need to do. So I went out and built a ramp. It's an all hydraulic ramp, can be set up in about 2 or 3 minutes. So we roll in, set it, jump it, and tear it out all within a 15 or 20 minute intermission. And Kimberly, my better half, her background is in marketing. And so she actually is the one that helped develop the name Steel Rodeo Tour. And although it's called Steel Rodeo Tour, we jump everywhere. We jump at music festivals, NASCAR races, monster truck shows, wherever. But my nickname, Cowboy Kenny, just plays into the whole Steel Rodeo. And yes, we've been hitting the road ever since. That was 2011. So right at 10 years now.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah. So I'm glad you touched on the rodeo aspect, because that was actually part of one of the things I kind of wanted to ask is, obviously the play on words part of it is very clever. So massive shout out to Kimberly, by the way, because
yeah, exactly.
I did not know that she came up with that, but I love it, and it just fits so well. So props to her for sure. And yeah, like definitely, I wanted to talk about the rodeo aspect for exactly what you just talked about. I think it's so cool, and really. I mean, I've had the opportunity to see a few of the rodeo shows that you do, and I love rodeo. Like, I grew up loving rodeo, so it's kind of cool for me. It is literally the best of both worlds, because I love rodeo, I love music, and I obviously love motocross. So in freestyle specifically. So it's very, very cool. But it is a total different audience. And you would probably agree if you compete in an X Games event, or let's say you are a part of the Nitro Circus, like when you're doing something on that scale, the audience is that they are extreme sports adrenaline lovers. When you go to rodeo, you will have 4-year-olds and 70, 80-year-olds. You'll have stock contractors to somebody who's literally there because they were dragged along with their friends and have never seen a rodeo. So I feel like what a great way to introduce the sport of freestyle motocross, even on a very casual scale, but also to like such a wide, the demographics so wide. And I think it's cool. It's been very cool to see people's reactions at those type of events, because most of the time and if you don't agree, tell me, but I think most of the time they're going to the rodeo. They're not necessarily expecting to see you jumping a halftime show, intermission show.
Right. Absolutely. It's been such a great cross-marketing thing. And like I said, not just at the rodeos, at other events as well. Maybe they come for a specific band, or they come for the NASCAR race or whatever. But they see the freestyle motocross and they end up becoming fans of the motocross. But there is a percentage of people that do come to the show for the motocross event. A lot of people advertise that we're going to be there, and I want to go see, the freestyle motocross. And then they fall in love with the rodeo or with the music festival or the car race or whatever. So it's been a great cross marketing for us, as well as for the events that we've been at. Actually, one of my greatest compliments I've ever had in 26 years was a guy, I think it was at one of the rodeos you were at in Will Rogers Rodeo. It was in Veneta, Oklahoma, or Miami, whatever, up in that area. An older guy who was part of the rodeo committee came up to me before the show, before we rode practice or anything, just walked up and kind of got in my face. It was, those darn motorcycles, they don't belong at rodeo. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this he's pissed that we're here and we're taking over his rodeo. And I just said, I'm sorry, sir. I hope I can change your mind by the end of the day. Walked off. We did our show, and he came up to me afterward and didn't say a word. Just looked me in the eye, stuck his hand out, shook my hand, and turned and walked off. And I was like, that was the greatest thing ever. Like I turned this guy. He was pissed at the beginning, and he enjoyed the show, but he was just one of those old school rodeo people that kind of a man of few words. And it meant a lot to me,
That's awesome. One good solid head nod from a cowboy, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it is true. Like, I could see that. I definitely could see it. I could see it being a head turner and on both sides. But at the end of the day, like it's bringing joy and happiness to people, and it's fun, and it's the intentions are phenomenal. So roll with it. I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point in your career, Kenny, do you feel like? So obviously Guy Cooper's your uncle, right? Mm-hmm. Supercross guy.
Yeah.
So for the motocross world, like, obviously he had, and the reason I bring him up is just simply like, obviously you have to have drive and determination to like grow in the sport, right? And then you came up on dirt bikes, on off-road vehicles. At what point do you feel like you really had a mindset bigger than maybe just going and doing some shows or competing? Like there's something about you that certainly, and I feel like we loosely throw around entrepreneur too easy. So I've really been trying to be a little more, I just don't want to just throw that around as much, but you have a mindset, and we'll talk about what you've been into and maybe what's to come for you. But I want to know, like, where in your life so far at 42 years, where was the shift that took you to like, I'm driven to be a businessman. I want to grow. I want to be successful. It wasn't just about like, I want to be in front of people, doing backflips. Clearly your vision is much bigger than that. So where do you feel like that happened?
Has that happened yet? That's a really good question. Man, I don't really know. I guess, people that are very successful, they always say the key to their success was surrounding themselves with other great people. Like you said, my uncle, Guy Cooper, he was a professional racer, won a couple of national and world supercross championships, or racing championships, and a world supercross. I saw a video of Guy riding at age 7. I was 7 when I watched Guy, and I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I vividly remember that moment being a turning point in wanting to race professionally and knowing that, hey, this could be a career opportunity. And from that moment on, it was pretty much, my life was about racing the dirt bike. But then freestyle became a sport, and racing wise, I don't want to say you can't make a business of it, but it is mostly result driven. You know, you win a championship, you make more money than you do if you win second, basically. And so, but then freestyle became a sport, and longtime friend of mine, Travis Pastrana, talked me into going to the first event. And I had a little bit of success. You know, I was, I don't know, 10th or 15th place at a few of the events. And then Travis and I teamed up for a doubles contest in Gravity Games in 1999, and we won a gold medal together. And that was a big turning point in my freestyle career. I think both in the way I rode and in the way I viewed my career of, hey, I can really make something of this. People are kind of taking notice of who I am. And then, you know, a couple different managers along the way. Rich Swisher was a manager that he actually came up with the nickname Cowboy Kenny. I grew up around horses. My dad and my sister showed quarter horses and Appaloosas and stuff like that. So I've been around horses, but I was never really, I'm not a true cowboy. I've never made bones about that, you know, but I listen to country music, and I don't fit the stereotypical California freestyle rider. So we came up with Cowboy Kenny, and that was another big, like you said, branding point that it just kind of solidified my name and a more of a business aspect. So, you know, and then as you get older, I was always really good about saving my money. You know, I watched a lot of people, and they went out and bought the Escalades and put it on 20s and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there was guys that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on new cars, or maybe it was just partying or whatever. And I was always really good about saving my money. They just pay it to the government. So, you know, it wasn't until I was probably 5 or 10 years ago, I really started thinking about how to invest my money, or different, like you said, entrepreneurship, business opportunities of what am I going to do? I'm 42 years old, and I'm very blessed to still be riding and still love riding, but I know I can't be doing this at 65 years old. So, you know, what am I going to do in the next, hopefully I can make it till I'm 60 riding, but who knows, you know?
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, I guess just as you get older, you start thinking about more retirement type things.
Yeah. Just different angles on making how do you truly stretch it long term? And what, you know, maybe what needs to shift and change. That's awesome. That's really cool. So just in case there's been anything lost in translation, I'm the king of that sometimes. I just want to kind of reel it back, and we'll close out the questions about the Steel Rodeo Tour. But here's what I want to say. Like, Kenny is, so yeah, he's a freestyle guy. He's obviously got this tour where they go around and they jump, and he'll talk about kind of what he's doing now and what's to come. But I want you guys to understand, like, when I ask those questions, the reason is because there are still tons of dudes still jumping, still doing freestyle, still competing. Obviously some of the guys from like when I came up being a huge fan, and you were literally in the midst of it, those guys a lot of them have moved on into different areas, still visible, but you know, maybe they're not competing every weekend. But you could easily go that route where you just have a freestyle motocross career, or maybe a motocross career and then into freestyle, and then, you know, maybe tinker around a little bit, maybe do a few shows, and then you maybe retire and you go get a job somewhere, or you retire and you go become a trainer, or you teach, whatever. But you have chosen to really make a business out of the Steel Rodeo, and that's just something I admire. So I don't want to harp on it, but I want people to understand, like, maybe you had some dreams, some visions, some things you did that were so fun and so cool, maybe as a young person, or maybe you're somebody that's like Kenny and I, you're in your 40s now, and it's like, oh, where did the time go? And you're like, but I loved to do this. Well, maybe you can still be a part of what you loved to do. You just spin it to a different angle and find out, how do you still get involved? I believe so strongly that, and I want to talk about passion, but I think the things that you're passionate about are exactly the things that you should be surrounded by. You know, for 20 minutes before we jumped on this interview today, I turned on some worship music. I texted my girlfriend, said, hey, I'm gonna be away from my phone for a while. I called Braxton, he's out fishing. I said, hey, give me an hour and I'll check back with you. And I really wanted to put myself in a space of the things that bring me joy. I got to talk to Brax. I let Anna know I'm busy. I'm listening to some worship music. I wanted to get into space. And the reason is simply because I want to be doing the things that I love. I love music. I love fun, happy energy. And so I say that just to remind you guys that it's so easy to to discount the value that you have and maybe what is to come or what could be to come. Just find the things that you love and jump back at it. And maybe it's a different side. Maybe you loved soccer and maybe you should just be a soccer coach because it still gives you joy to be around the soccer field or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that makes sense. And I bring that up because it is important. Like, you could have easily like hung it up and been done, and you've chosen to go a different route. And I mean, obviously I admire you for it and I respect you for it, but my goal is always for people to know that they can do more than just the normal. And so maybe there's someone out there that used to be into something, gymnastics, whatever. And if they can, maybe have like this new creative, mindset to get back involved into some capacity that can bring them joy, I think that's awesome. So I just wanted to share that. So what are you doing right now? I don't mean physically sitting in your office talking to me, but like what is Kenny Bartram doing? What's your day-to-day life looking like now?
Man, I'm into all kinds of things, actually. I actually have my real estate license in both Oklahoma and Louisiana. So doing a little bit of that, not very active in the real estate world. I do stunts in the movie industry is kind of my primary thing, even above Steel Rodeo Tour. Obviously, due to COVID, the Hollywood world is pretty well shut down right now. It's just barely starting to open back up, but that's kind of my next venture in life is stunt work in the movies. I've been very fortunate in the last 5 or 6 years to get to do. I think I've got a little over 50 credits already. Some of the bigger movies was Logan, Jumanji, the first Jumanji with The Rock. Jack Reacher, a couple of big stuff like that, and then NCIS New Orleans, Preacher, Claws. I've done a few things like that on some TV series stuff. So just having fun. It's not all on the dirt bike. I get to do fight scenes and weapons and car driving and whatever. So that's always different, day to day. I also tinker a lot with woodworking. Believe it or not, that's a hobby of mine. I know it comes completely out of left field. I have a Facebook page at CKB Customs. I do like farmhouse furniture or craft items, and, kind of weird little one-off things that I just see something. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let me see if I can make it, and I'll try to make one. And so I try to post those up there. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
Wow, that's so cool. I literally had no idea you did new. I'm not shocked because I know it's like you're talking about the when you started Steel Rodeo, you're like, yeah, I built the ramps, and I'm like, yeah, like that's fascinating to me that you can build the ramps. So I'm not surprised that you're a woodworker.
That one I didn't build. That one I did not build. It's an all metal ramp. I am not a welder at all. So okay, I did not build the ramp. I had Brian Dowdy out of Colorado is the one that built it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you are definitely a man. You wear many hats, and I think that's super cool. So currently still doing some jumps though, some like not demo. I guess what do you call them? As exhibitions, shows?
Yeah, exhibitions, demos, shows, whatever.
Okay, and then movie stuff is picking back up through like now that COVID's wrapping up. You're getting more involved with things. With movie stuff?
Yeah. Film work is just starting to pick back up. Some of the states are starting to relax their protocols, and Hollywood being California, they're very liberal based and it's a big, huge corporation. They have to protect themselves. They're liable for all kinds of things. So, I get it from every aspect of it that they have to be very careful. And so, but as things are starting to relax, they're starting to open back up just a little bit and film some more stuff. So, starting to get some film work back, and then like I said, still jumping. My Steel Rodeo Tour has a Facebook page and Instagram. My schedule is up on the Facebook page. I try to keep the events fairly current on there. So
perfect.
Try to catch a show in your area.
Yeah, for sure. What are you most passionate about?
Having fun. It's like you were saying, find something that you're passionate about, and I'm sure we've all heard the old saying, if you find something you love, you'll never work another day in your life. As much as I love riding dirt bikes, there's days I hate it. I'm like, God, I don't really want to go ride my dirt bike. Well, on that day, maybe I'll go tinker with some woodworking stuff, or maybe it's a stunt day. And so I think it might be the variety that I'm into is maybe what keeps me having fun with different things. I can kind of move from project to project, but I think life can't be all about fun. Obviously, we have household chores and we have bills to pay and stuff like that. It's not all about fun, but we need to try to make it as fun as possible. And so finding things that you love and like you said, surround yourself with things you're passionate about. It'll make it a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the coolest thing that you have ever done to you? Not maybe cool. Maybe to me, the coolest thing you've done will be different than to you. What's the coolest thing that you've done for you?
Ooh, wow. I have no idea. There's been a lot of fun memories or achievements and stuff that that's a good question. The funnest thing I've ever done for me. I don't know.
Let me adjust the question.
We'll circle back to that one.
What are you most proud of?
Probably 2003. Well, actually 2005 Dew Tour. I won the championship there, and it was a 5-round series that I was in a battle with Jeremy Stenberg, and it came down to the very last round. We actually had both gotten hurt at previous rounds, and we're actually both in the hospital at the last round, and both of us pushed through, and I was able to come out on top. That was one of my best freestyle runs I felt I ever did. It was just one of those days, everything was clicking exactly how I wanted it to, and that was probably one of my best rides and proudest moments.
That's super cool. Okay, so that's professionally, business wise, that was your most proud moment. What about in life? What do you feel like? What are you the most proud of in your life as a human, not necessarily in the industry?
I guess respect. I feel like people give me a lot of respect, and I cherish that. That's something that you have to earn. And so not necessarily because of my accolades in the career, but just being a good person. I get complimented on that all the time. And there's a lot of people in the freestyle world, especially back in the beginning, not so much now, but back in the beginning, a lot of guys are all about death and destruction and hardcore metal. And I don't want to say they weren't good people. Deep down and one-on-one they were, but their persona was not a good person. Where I've always had the good old American boy attitude and carry that,
For sure. And you obviously you mentioned appreciating the respect, but just, full credit to you as well. The reason that you receive that respect is because you put it out there as well. And when you're the kind of person that is kind to others, typically it's reciprocated. You're going to have people that aren't. That's no problem. Just don't give them your energy, Funny you say that about.
Actually,
No, go ahead.
While we're on that topic of respect, I wanted to start a hashtag last year, not to turn this political or anything, but I wanted to start a hashtag, show respect, get respect. When everything was,
crazy,
you don't respect this type of person or whatever. If you show respect, you will get respect. I don't care who it's from or who it's with. Show respect, get respect.
100%.
Start that hashtag.
Yeah, for sure. Hang on, I'm gonna write it down. I'm a huge believer in that. I've always used the word respect, and I know my mom and I are really close, and I remember years and years ago she'd say, well, whenever you say respect, because I always say, man, they just don't people so and so, whatever the circumstance over the years, they just weren't respectful. And my mom would say, well, it's not, with all meant with love, she'd say, well, like, okay, but people don't have to respect you. It's not, and it wasn't ever from an angle of because I'm better than anybody. It's just like, well, gosh, I'm going to say thank you and please. I'm going to return your text message. I'm going to hold the door open for you. So it's like, man, why can't people just do the same thing back? What I've learned, Kenny, is that when you set expectations of people, you allow yourself to be let down. So, we can start we can change the world today with the hashtag and remind people, because the worst case scenario is we remind a few people that, hey, if you do good things come around, and if you're respectful to others, show respect. Yeah. The concept's so good and so real, and we get to make the decision to live that kind of life. Not everybody does, but if we can encourage people, then perfect. That's get better one day at a time, So I was going to ask what's next. That was my last question I wrote down. You already talked about it. And then if you didn't tell me, but I feel like what's next is just moving further into the stunt work stuff. Did that just become a desire for you at some point, or was that where'd that kind of come from?
I sort of lucked into doing the Fantastic Four back in 2004. I got invited to Canada to ride. There was a scene where they supposedly went to the X Games, and I was one of the riders. And man, I had a blast seeing the behind the scenes. And I actually got to rehearse the stunt where Johnny Flame or whatever jumps off the bike, does a backflip, and flies off. I got to rehearse that, hanging from the wires and flying and stuff. It was an absolute blast. And I tried to get into doing stunt work back then, but it's a very big commitment. Like, you really have to get into the industry and network, and it's a big who you know sort of thing. And at the time, I was still full-time freestyle and kind of had the blinders on for freestyle contests. And so I never had the time to devote to stunt work. And so then about 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, my son actually wanted to be an actor. So we moved to California, and he actually did quite a few things out there. And I wanted to be a stuntman. So it went hand in hand. We lived in California for a year. I never worked one single day in stunts. There's 10,000 stunt guys out there. And so I just was lost in the crowd. And a buddy of mine that used to be a motocross racer was heavily involved in the stunt world. He lived in New Orleans, and he's like, man, you need to move to New Orleans. This is the place to be. And there's a ton of stunt work down here. And so we just uprooted the family and moved down here. That was in 2015. And it was still a very slow build. I think the first year I worked 2 days here, but
yeah.
But it built on that and has become pretty good.
Why is there stunt work business in New Orleans?
The big production companies chase the tax credits. Is the simplest way to put it. Every state has its own tax rebate program. And actually Oklahoma is getting a decent film incentive to where, you come and put on a $100 million movie, maybe you get 5 or 10 million of that back. But they've done all kinds of studies. I forget what it is. For every dollar the film world spends, they bring in like $4 or $5 for the city economy. Just like myself, I've now bought a house in New Orleans. I bought a car down here. My whole family's here, spending money. And same thing, the film world it's like its own little city. I mean, there's construction and everything, catering that they provide. They bring in, they use services from the community
local
every day. So
yeah, so it's advantageous for whatever community it is. It's going to bring some, I don't use the word value, but it's going to bring some money. It's going to bring some money. It's going to earn some taxes. Right. Cool.
Right.
So is there, like, why New Orleans though specifically? And I asked this, like, I'm naive to it. I don't really understand why, but is it because like that's an area, did they go there because that's an area that could absolutely use the jump and the push of some economy boost? I
think it was a politician, 10 years or so ago that said, yes, we need to bring in outside industry. And New Orleans is quite a bit of a tourist industry. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that travel. Hey, this was my favorite movie and it was filmed in New Orleans. I'm going to go see where it was filmed at or this or that. So that sort of stuff brings in extra revenue for the city. For the production companies, I think it's mostly the tax incentives. California is also so regulated. I've heard it said, California, you want to move something across the street. All right, hold on. I got to call the city. I got to get a permit to cross the street. And then I got to bring a police officer in to shut traffic down. We're going to put barricades up and all this. Louisiana, you're like, hey, you want to cross the street? All right, hold up, cross.
Come on.
And go on. When you've got a crew of 300 or 400 people, every 30 minutes or an hour that it takes to get something done, that costs the production companies thousands and thousands of dollars. So whenever it's easier and less regulation outside of California, it just makes more sense for the production companies. They'll get more done in the same amount of time.
For sure. That makes a ton of sense. I love that. I'm so glad I asked because I was curious about it, and it really works out well. Obviously, that you've kind of planted some feet there for sure. I'm gonna text you later on, or maybe after this weekend. I know you have a busy weekend. I want to talk about real estate stuff outside of here because I've got this. It's funny that you're doing real estate in both states because my girlfriend's in Arkansas, and I have fallen in love. I spent a lot of time there last year. I love Arkansas. I love the Little Rock area, just the Metroplex, if you will. But I live in Oklahoma still, and I have a lot of real estate friends here, and I really have a desire to become a realtor. but I want to do it in multiple
Yeah.
states. I want to do it here in Arkansas. So it's cool that you're doing both states. So we'll talk about that totally outside of here, but I just want, if I say it, then one of us will remember it later on.
All right. Fair enough.
So, okay, cool. Well, so like, as we wrap up, I want to like ask you what kind of, well, before we do that, let me say this. So to follow you, Instagram, Cowboy Kenny 690, right? Facebook, you have obviously Kenny Bartram. They can just find you as you. That's just Kenny Bartram, Bartram. But you also mentioned having a Steel Rodeo page on Facebook. So let's plug that. How could they find you there?
Facebook, I have three pages. The Steel Rodeo Tour, it's just that STEEL Rodeo Tour. Also have a Cowboy Kenny 690 page, and then the CKB Customs for woodworking stuff.
CKB Customs. Okay, perfect. So I forgot you do have the Cowboy. So you do have a Cowboy Kenny Facebook page, obviously the Instagram page I mentioned. And then as far as Instagram though, is Cowboy Kenny 690 the only Instagram handle that's tied to like your industry stuff? Just that one?
I think I also have a Steel Rodeo Tour Instagram page.
Okay, cool. So if people are curious, they could go check you out there as well. So definitely do that. Look around. And if you guys are ever traveling, or maybe if you're like, spring and fall come around and it's rodeo season, summer, if you're going to be at a rodeo, it'd be really cool to find it. Like check and see if Kenny's going to be jumping there, because it'd be fun to see, and bring your friends and family out for sure. He's all over. We've talked about Oklahoma, we talked about California, and we talked about Louisiana. There's one thing I promise you, those are not the only places that he travels. He's all over the place. So if you just happen to be in Georgia or Alabama and you're going to try and catch a rodeo, don't be afraid to look up and see if maybe he's going to be there, or just check his schedule and see where he's going to be and go check it out. Go watch a good rodeo and go watch a good freestyle show as well. He also always, at least all my experiences, he always has several other guys jumping with him, at least a couple, and they're always really good, really fun guys. So you'll have fun regardless. So definitely I encourage people to check that out and do that. So as we wrap up, man, first of all, thank you so much for taking some time, and thanks for just great friendship, man. It's been so fun to bounce ideas off each other over the years, and to be motivated by just to see how you operate, and also as a family. We didn't talk much about family, but you're a heck of a family man too. So I appreciate that, and just who you are. Also for Braxton, he's it's really cool to have. We've been blessed, man. We've been around a lot of success through his whole life, and not me, but I mean, just we ran around in the country music scene for a long time. So he grew up on buses and backstage at shows, and then then of course he's so into motocross, and knowing guys like you, it's cool. But as a dad, and I know you understand this, as a dad, there's just nothing that makes me more proud and brings me more joy than to know that the people that he does kind of maybe look up to are good people, and I appreciate that for sure, from so many different angles, from athletes that we know to music industry guys and guys like you. It's just cool. So I appreciate it, friend to friend, but also as a dad, like, just it's been cool for Braxton to have a guy, just people that he can look up to that are well respected in whatever they do. So
yeah, perfect. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So as we close and wrap this up, any last words, final words, as you're the last one to talk today? Not really, because I never stop talking. But
you have the microphone.
Right, I'm official. But so, like, if there's just one last thing you would say, if you were going to leave our friends with one last thing, whether it's inspiration, whether it's encouragement, whether it's a plug for what's to come, what do you leave us with?
Go have fun. Go have fun in life.
I love it, dude. I so love it. I love when I said, what's your passion? That was one of the first things you said too, man. Having fun. And that's so cool. Awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, as I said, and I appreciate all you guys checking this podcast out. Again, you can find it YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you go. Please make sure you tag, like, review, subscribe. And the reason is simply because I want to reach a larger audience with the Chazway brand. And I'm really fortunate that it's a really well-versed, like, we have it's a whole mix of people, but at the end of the day, my goal is always for people to understand they're worthy of great, great, great things. And I think to do that, we need to reach more people and remind them that you're worthy. And so I don't ask you guys to go out and subscribe or to share or tag I don't do that for me. I do it for the person on the other end that maybe needs to hear something one day. And if we can impact some lives, then we're doing our job. So again, man, I appreciate you, Kenny. Thanks as always.
Actually, can I get in the last word here?
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to literally give you the last word. I will hit stop when you're done. Go ahead.
No, when you just said that, it reminded me of a story, kind of a testimonial, but I'm a Christian. The way I started reading the Bible was a woman on an airplane was reading the Bible, and we got our food. This was back pre 9/11. You got food. She said she her head to say blessing before the meal. And I'm like, whatever. I've seen it done before, so I bowed my head. It turned into a great conversation, and she ended up giving me the Bible that she was reading that day, and I started reading it cover to cover from that moment on. But I have gone on to share that story at hundreds of youth revivals and youth camps and different church talks and testimonials and stuff. So my way to bring that back to what you said is you never know how you're going to affect the person you're talking to. To her, I was just some teenage kid on an airplane that she was given a Bible to. She had no idea that I was going to go on to become a famous motocross rider that would influence thousands of other people. And so when somebody likes or subscribes your podcast, they may introduce it to somebody else that may go on to influence thousands of people. So just always be a good influence, because you never know who those people are going to turn into someday.